What's up, guys? Air suspension finally. Shotgun shocks. Let's go. It is cool when you dump all the air out because it makes all the dust underneath the bike just like shoot away from the bike. You can drop it 3 inches below stock ride height. All right, so you guys clicked on this because you want to learn how to install your brand new shotgun shocks, right? Maybe you're thinking about doing shotgun shocks in the future and you want to install them yourself and you want to know what's involved. Or you just want to see a review on shotgun shocks. All the above we're going to cover today. All right, now there are a few brands of air suspension for the rear that fit my bike, which is 2013 Deluxe. One of which was SAS, which was kind of cool. They were different than the other two. They were a standalone unit that had the compressor and the shocks all built into one unit. Very cool. You don't have to worry about wiring or tubes or anything. It was cool, and they were the cheapest out of the 3. It was something like 11 or 1200. Then there was Legend, which looked great, good reviews, but compared to the shotguns, which were right around the same price, they didn't have the long-standing reputation that Shotgun did. And in the end, I decided, let me go with Shotgun. They have the most amount of good reviews compared to Legend. So that's where I went. So when I finally got these in, I was overwhelmed by how much the unit weighs. It was like 11 pounds. I put it on the scale, and it's just a beefy, robust system. All metal, it's like no plastic. Just a really cool looking system. And I finally get down to the bike, rip off the Progressive 422s, which I gotta say were great. For what they are, it's a great suspension setup. So today I'm gonna remove the Progressive 422s. We gotta drop the transmission fluid because once the air suspension goes in, we're gonna lose our access to the drain plug. Now, I mean, you might ask yourself like, all right, so can you ever change your transmission fluid again? Like, the answer is yes. You just have to disconnect your air suspension at the front end, let it hang, and then you can get access to your drain plug. Or you could suck it out to the top. I probably wouldn't recommend that, but anyway, this is going to save a headache later on. Transmission fill plug is right here. I'm just gonna use a 3/8 hex 7590 Mobile 1. Here we go, whole bottle. The installation really wasn't hard. It's manipulating the bike so that it'll accept the installation that was the hardest part. Now, these are the parts that your shotgun kit will come with. Compressor, the main unit, wiring harnesses, diverter valve, here are your switches, an inline filter. The great thing is, you don't have to do the whole thing blind. They actually give you a rundown on how it's done, tell you what it should include. Okay, as per the directions, you take your wiring harness and you're gonna route this. There's a hole. You can see, probably see my finger. There we go, that's in the battery box. Okay, right up through there. And once you have all that through, you let that hang. Now you're left with this relay that's halfway throughout the entire harness. And what they want you to do is actually mount it directly behind your oil tank, basically between the oil tank and the splash guard. Just kind of find a little hole for it to sit, and right there, like right above where your starter is. And then you're gonna have the rest of this wiring harness kind of just dangling for now, and that's gonna attach to the equipment that we're gonna install very shortly. Okay, so once you have that all squared away, you're gonna take your stock rubber grommets and you're gonna attach them to these. Just like that. Very, very simple. So you're gonna take the bolts that come off of the front, right? And you're gonna put on your stock grommets. So get these ready to go. Very simple. All right, now this is like where it's kind of tricky. You have to make sure the bike is jacked up. I'm sure it already was. Jack it up further, stick something underneath that will get the whole wheel to come up. That way the swing arm extends, and that way you can get this up without that crossbar, this bar getting in the way. That way it'll fit right up there. You see that? Good. So that's where we're at right now. And we're gonna put these in. I believe starting with the right one. All right, so as per the directions, we're gonna take this L bracket off of the compressor and attach it to the left side on the actual shotgun shock itself. All right, here we go. They're actually loose straight from the factory. Okay. So these two holes mount to the compressor itself. Then you have this single hole, which is going to go to the actual shock itself. Okay, we're going to attach the 1/4 inch to here. There we go. And then these are your mounting bolts. Are going to attach to the L bracket, and you're going to need a 1/4 inch hex. Make sure you Loctite these bolts too. Now the wire coming from the compressor, you're going to want to go up the left side of the bike, up and over your shock. And this is the right side of the bike, kind of looking forward. It's going to pop out right here, and that's where it's going to meet the 1/4 inch airline, and that's where you're going to put a zip tie on just to connect them to your frame rail. All right, so get that done. All right, so you're gonna take this diverter valve and mount it with one of these bolts that they give you. Right here, there's an open threading towards the back of your transmission. So we're gonna do that right now. It's a little bit tricky to get there, but you're gonna use a 3/16 hex. Okay, and then you set up the filter. You just cut it. Okay, so the 1/4 inch airline is gonna run to the right side of the frame tube, and it's gonna link up with the wiring from the compressor, and you're just gonna zip tie those. Then right after the zip tie, you're gonna cut it and splice in this filter. All right, so you get the airline coming from the compressor, then you get the filter, then run it right up to right here. It just says in, and that's gonna be in from the compressor. And you have to cut that to size. They give you plenty to work with, so don't worry, just overcut it and just go from there. You could always just trim a little bit more, not a big deal. Okay, and that looks pretty good. The hardest part is just not to allow it to kink, which it is. I gotta be honest, it's not really that easy because you got to do a lot of bending, and this stuff doesn't really want to bend very easily without kinking. So just kind of go slow. You'll get it. Okay, and then you have this hose right here coming from the front of the shock, which you're going to wind up over the shock, just the same as the other one, and you're gonna tuck it in. It's not easy. It's the tucking part is the not easy part. So it looks good and it doesn't get kinked. Okay, and then you have this green one that comes in from the back, and that's gonna go to the bottom of your diverter valve. It's a green hose that goes to like a green, it's kind of like labeled as green. Very easy to kind of figure this one out. So I'm left with these 3 plugs, and I have a pretty good idea where they're gonna go. These 3. Just a matter of like hiding. That's like the hardest part on this thing, is like hiding stuff. It's pretty easy to figure out which one goes to which. Tuck all this crap up behind your oil tank. All right, you're gonna hook up your switches real quick, which means you're gonna undo your horn nut and then just pop this in right behind it. And then the wiring is just gonna run up and under your tank. So we're just gonna take this off, that way we can run this underneath. Very easy, and we'll just connect it right inside the battery box. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna loosen this just slightly. Get this little tab up to run the wire underneath. Wire's gonna come up, go behind this plastic. That's it. Put your battery back in. This is all the wiring that's coming out from the shock. All right, so obviously black, negative, red, positive. All right, so I mean, I might have had a little bit more wire up top than what they suggest, but you know, I'd rather it be a little bit further up and clutter up this area rather than be down below and be visible. So that's kind of like my thinking about it. All right. So you have this, and then you have this, which is coming from that harness coming out of the shock, and this is going to your toggle, and you're gonna marry these up. As far as hiding it, you know, it's kind of like you're on your own, but I'm sure you guys can figure it out. Otherwise, it's all hooked up. Checking what eyes can All right, so I'm gonna give you guys a tutorial on how this works. They give you the toggle switch bracket, which has the toggle switches attached to it, and it actually attaches to the same bolt that holds up your horn. It goes right above your horn, right beneath your tank. 2 toggle switches. So this is fully dumped. This, you can see, fully dumped. So we're gonna raise it up for the first time. All right, you're gonna hit both switches up. It's not gonna do anything for the first few seconds because it has to build up pressure. All right, so that's what it looks like, fully raised up. That is not cool. All right, so you got your suspension fully raised up. It's gonna be like kinda easy to push down. It's gonna be nice and comfy if you wanna ride like that. All right, so you wanna drop it, but you don't wanna lose all your air. This is how you do it. The rear switch down is gonna drop it, but it's gonna maintain air inside the shock vessel. So you can go up quick. You hit the same button, the rear button, and it'll shoot up. But you also lose air when you do that. So now it's gonna be very bouncy again, probably more bouncy than before. But you can put more air in it by hitting the front switch up. It puts more air in it. Now it's gonna be harder. Yeah, like it won't even go down at all. You want to drop it while dumping air. You hit the front switch down and it's just gonna okay. So you just dropped all your air and the bike is now at its lowest position possible. So you're probably thinking like, oh, so you just need, if you want to get the bike back up, you just need to hit both toggle switches up again. Correct. You're basically starting at 0 again. And that's kind of how I like to store the bike, just dump, no air. And how I ride, you know, I'll generally bring it all the way up, right? And then I'll like sit on it and kind of like adjust the air from there. Yeah, like, that's good. I would ride like that. Maybe a little bit lower. It's a little bouncy. I'm getting spoiled. All right, let's talk ride height. You got the suspension installed. Let's pretend that you have the bike at stock ride height. You can go up, with this suspension, you can go up 1 inch and down 3 inches. The progressives will only go down 2 inches. These will go 3. An extra inch, believe me, it's really freaking low. You don't want to go all the way to the top because it just looks stupid, but if you're manipulating the bike because you're working on it or something, or you're on a hill and you need that extra lean so the bike doesn't tip over or whatnot, you can do that sort of thing. You can raise it all the way up so that you get that extra lean. Or if you guys need that extra comfort, you can ride with it with that extra inch. I don't know why you would ever do that, but you can.
Top down, letting the sun in up to 110. Chopper in hands that'll make a nigga lung spin. Cruising up the coast.
All right, so let's talk about this misconception that everybody doesn't talk about. That air suspension is more comfortable than stock suspension. Is it true or not? It's both. Air suspension is more comfortable if you're riding at stock ride height. If you're dumped, it's not more comfortable. Stock suspension would be more comfortable because dumped is still dumped. It doesn't matter if you're on springs or air or freaking water. It doesn't matter. It's dumped, which means you have this much travel in your suspension or less All right, so on the other side of the coin, I did have a chance to really try out this suspension to make it as comfy as possible. It is kind of cool, you can change things on the fly. So I'm on the highway and I'm bouncing around, and I'm like, let me try out this suspension. So I start raising it up, mess around with the dampening, and all of a sudden, it just smoothed out everything. Couldn't feel a damn thing. It was like riding on a cloud, even the most jarring bumps. Guys, I hope this video helped. I hope you learned something. The install portion of it, maybe it served as a guideline, or now you know what to expect in the future if you do decide to install this yourself. So throw any comments, questions in the comments section. I do get back to pretty much everybody, even the haters. See you soon.